My mom destroyed my relationships because they reminded her of her past, so I reminded her therapist why age is just a number. My mother has been using the same excuse since she turned 45. My dad traumatized her, so now she's entitled to prove she's still got it with any male that enters our home. And I don't mean she flirts a little at PTA meetings. I mean she systematically seduces every single boy I've ever cared about. The trauma in question? My dad traded her in for Ashley, a 25-year-old, from accounting. But there's always a piece of the story she leaves out. He left after she was physically attacking him almost every single day. Bruised ribs, a black eye, everything. The police didn't care because he had to be a man. And because she convinced my dad that I encouraged her hitting him, he went no contact with us both. Luckily, she never hit me. But she did do something almost equally as bad, kissing my boyfriends. It started small. Freshman year, my friend Jake came over for a group project. Mom appeared in yoga pants and a push-up bra, bent over to look for her reading glasses, right in front of him for 5 minutes. A week later, I found them making out in our kitchen. He was 15. She said I was being dramatic, that he reminded her of her youth. Then came Connor, my sophomore homecoming date. She decided to volunteer at the last minute and spent the entire night pulling him aside to check if we needed anything. 2 weeks later, my best friend saw his car at our house while I was at practice. I came home to find his Letterman jacket in her bedroom. She'd convinced him that experienced women understood men better. We'd been dating for 3 months. Each time I tried going to the local, extremely rural police station, showed them her messages to my underage ex-boyfriends, pictures he'd sent her. I expected the officers to arrest her, or at least tell her not to do it again. But no, the officers just smirked and said, damn, if I was that age, I'd want her too. Not really a crime when they're willing. They did nothing. By junior year, I'd learned to lie. Mom, I'm not dating anyone. Meanwhile, I'd been with Marcus for 6 months. Different schools, no social media overlap. Told him my mom was going through something, and we needed to keep distance. I made one mistake though. She saw the corsage receipt in my car. A prom date? How exciting. I'll do your makeup. The night of prom, she insisted on pictures. Just a few with mom. 45 minutes of poses later, she was adjusting Marcus's bow tie, touching his chest, telling him he must work out. When we tried to leave, she started crying about missing her own prom, how dad never appreciated her youth. Marcus hugged her to be polite. She held on too long. I dragged Marcus out early, apologizing the whole way. He was genuinely disturbed. That was intense. I see why you kept me away. He promised to block her on everything, said he'd never let her get to him like she did with the others. I'm not just some high school kid. I can handle a desperate housewife. 2 days later, his best friend sent me a snap. It was a blurry photo of my mom in the McDonald's drive-thru with Marcus in the passenger seat. I called Marcus immediately. No answer. I sped home and used my key quietly. Found them in the living room, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her, both half-dressed on the couch. She was wearing my perfume. She looked up with those practiced tears. Honey, I'm so sorry. He just reminds me of my old self, of feeling wanted again. Marcus couldn't even look at me, just grabbed his shirt and left. Later, he texted that she'd been sending him pictures for days, that he'd tried to resist but she knew exactly what to say, that he was sorry but couldn't help himself, but I was done crying. Now, it was her turn. But I was too young to do any real damage yet, so I played the long game. Fast forward 3 years when I finally turned 19. My mom was still going to the same sleazy therapist who validated everything she did. Doctor, Peterson says you need to give me grace while I heal, was practically her mantra. But there was one thing I did like about him. Whenever my mom brought him to our house for a cleansing with white sage, I'd feel his greedy eyes run along my body, and now I could legally make her understand how I felt. I booked